Hello and welcome back to the Bookshelf Odyssey. My name is Art, and today I have another, boy, am I going to call these like Friday reads or Five on Friday or something? I don't know. Let's, whatever it is, let's dive into what I've been reading lately. I have quite an odd assortment of books to talk about today. I have some mysteries to talk about, a mystery, a nonfiction, and something weird that was really a lot of fun to read. So first off, let's look at the mystery. It was described as a cozy mystery, and it's called Merit Badge Murder. And this is one that I wanted to read for a while when I heard about it. It is a mystery series about it's written by Leslie Langtry, and she writes about the main character, who is a former CIA agent, and her cover is blown, so she has to now be retired and live in small town Iowa, which that is initially what drew my attention to the book and to the series. There's something like 30 books in the series now. Iowa is has such a personality at a sense of place that I was really looking forward to reading this story. So, and I wouldn't call this book necessarily a cozy mystery, but it really felt like more of a cozy thriller or a cozy spy novel. So that's the setup. The main character, her name is Mary Rath, and great name. And she, like I said, is in small town Iowa, and she's been relegated to leading the local Girl Scout troop. And on one of their outings, she comes across a dead body, and she realizes it's a dead body from somebody in her past, some criminal that had been chasing her, an enemy. She finds him dead. As the mystery unfolds, she comes across these different characters, people from her past. Her handler, her new neighbor is this hunky police detective. Her handler, she also finds to be very attractive. So this book had strong elements of like a romance novel. The girl versus two guys, and which one will she choose kind of thing. Then, like I said, the mystery itself, dead bodies keep turning up, and they're criminals from her past working as a CIA agent. And they think they're there to try to kill her, that her cover's been blown. But that all is really at the heart of this mystery. It was funny. The characters were very entertaining, but overall, I missed the sense that this actually took place in Iowa. Maybe that becomes more evident in the series as it progresses, but I felt like this really could have taken place in any state, any small town in the United States. There just wasn't enough descriptions of that, of the unique peculiarities of Iowans that could have made for a pretty fun read. But like I said, maybe that will be explored more in the series to come. But I did love Mary. That the humor in this book was just excellent, and I really enjoyed that. So I will definitely be interested in reading more in the story. The things I didn't care for was it did seem to be very heavy, more on the romance side of things, and the kind of will they, won't they. Well, I mean, and I like that, but I guess what I'm trying to say is that everyone, were incredibly handsome and incredible shape, and it gets to a point where I kind of roll my eyes, because it's like, is every man in this town completely hunky and attractive? And as a guy, I certainly, you could say I have no room to complain, because of the way men notoriously write women as characters, and I certainly have no place to blame and point fingers. So I acknowledge that, but yeah, I just like, is there anyone there who has the Iowa paunch that comes from eating too many casseroles with tater tots in them? But anyway, all that aside, I did have some quibbles with the book, but overall it was hilarious. There's one scene especially that I just died, where Mary is, as it says in the book, she is one of the people she hooks up with. It says Mary is forced to take on a roommate in the voluptuous form of a turned KGB agent / bimbo. And that whole part of the book was so funny. So there's this scene where Mary is taking this former KGB agent shopping for some clothes, and they're being followed by this pack of hormonal teenage boys, and just their interaction with staring at this KGB agent. This is where, I would like to see more interaction with the Iowa town, because definitely nobody who looks like that lives in small town Iowa, and if they do, they don't stick around for very long. They get out of town pretty quick. All that aside, this was a fun read. If you like cozies that are funny and romantic and sexy, this might be the series for you. But nothing explicit if you're worried about that. So that was Merit Badge Murder by Leslie Langtry. I would recommend that book. And then the next book I read was a classic of science fiction called The Midwich Cuckoos by John Wyndham. And I believe I had heard of this book before. I obviously haven't ever read it. And it was an audiobook read by Stephen Fry. And I'm not sure if it was because of his narration or if the book is actually funny, but I found the book to be funnier than I thought it would be. Briefly, the book was written in the 1950s, I believe around 1957. It tells the story of there were some UFO sightings, and then essentially the next day, all the women in Midwich find out they're pregnant. At least all the ones who are of pregnancy age. And there were some very interesting thoughts that I think I would have liked to have seen them explore further. Some of the characters, some of the women characters, did express how they felt like they were being used. Because some of them, this was a unwanted pregnancy. They didn't ask for this; they didn't want it. Some of them didn't even have, a husband or boyfriend to impregnate them. So that was very shocking. And I would have liked to have seen that explored more from the women's perspective. It just left me feeling a little more, like it was a little wanting in that regard. The story is really a very simple one as it unfolds. Who impregnated all the women? Was it aliens? Was it something else? Was it just an odd occurrence? Obviously you realize there's something not right about these kids when they're born. As the story unfolds, you begin to really, it's not a horror story, but as the story unfolds and you get to learn more and more about these kids and what they are doing, there's just this general sense of dread and uneasiness about it. And in that regard, Wyndham just masterfully writes this. And then the ending is very chilling. And it's such a fascinating story. I kind of wish there was more to it, but in the end, it was very unsettling, just subtly so. Not outright horror, but just a very subtle resolution. So yeah, I would recommend The Midwich Cuckoos by John Wyndham. And then a book that was just bonkers and I absolutely loved reading was called Dungeon Crawler Carl by Matt Dinniman. And again, I listened to the audiobook and it was brilliantly performed by Jeff Hayes. This is the first book in a 6-book series and it's called a lit RPG game, which I've heard that term, but I never really knew what that was. And is it essentially, there are books written as if they were like a computer game. I think, the whole idea of leveling up and going on quests and side quests and collecting things to add to your inventory, all that. And that's really what's happening here. This book opens with an apocalyptic event on Earth. And this all happens within the first couple of chapters. Carl is outside wearing, I think, only his boxer shorts and a t-shirt, trying to get his girlfriend's cat out of a tree when the apocalypse happens, and essentially everyone who's inside a building is dead and gone, and everyone outside, as he was, is drawn into this what is basically a galactically televised version of Survivor, maybe. And so it shares very elements of a computer game where he has to go through different levels and face challenges. And of course, along the way, since he is sent into this game wearing only what he was brought in, he's wearing, his boxers and his t-shirt, and he's got his cat with him, Princess Donut, who is one of the best characters in this novel, maybe in all that I've read. Now, maybe not that far, but Princess Donut is a delight to read. And this, I recommend you read or listen to the audiobook, because the narrator just does an excellent job with her vocal performance. Now, I heard about this book from Leslie on the Nerdy Narrative. She has been hitting it out of the park with book recommendations lately. I've just completely thrown my TBR out the window several times and thrown on some books that she recommended that just sounded so good. And I have yet to read a book she's recommended that I've read and didn't like. So she's on a roll here with me. So I won't tell you all about the story. I think it's really worth reading and just uncovering the joy and insanity of what the author has created. But what I love is how it takes something familiar like computer games and apocalyptic novels, and it pokes fun at it. So if you like video games, I think you'd enjoy this story. If you like the humor, like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, there's a lot of that style of humor in this book. Not quite as irreverent as Douglas Adams gets. And so that does tend to help keep the book a little more grounded in reality, because, he is dealing with an apocalypse, and he is dealing with millions of humans being killed. And he has moments of real grief in that process. But there is a lot of fun to this book as well. And if you're a fan of that kind of humor, I think this book will sit you well. Princess Donut, his cat, is a great character. The AI is fantastic. And again, a reason why you ought to listen to the audiobook. The AI is I don't know. It's funny because, it'll announce like the different things that awards that he achieves, that are similar to like some of the awards you can get from like Minecraft, things like that. It's just great. Carl is an interesting character, but really it's the supporting cast for me that it's going to keep me coming back to this story. So again, this is a type of book or novel that I'm not really familiar with, but the author did a great job in describing what at times is the indescribable. And I did not feel lost at all. Like you experience the newness of it and the weirdness of it from Carl's perspective. But again, the author, he just is a master at, basically saying, yeah, this is weird. Hold on, buckle up. We're in for a ride. And he explains what we need to have explained to understand what's going on. So really interesting. Some great shots made at things like reality TV, the value we place on human life, things like that. So I would highly recommend Dungeon Crawler Carl, and you can check out Leslie's channel to get more in-depth reviews of these books. She does a better job at it than I can to talk about these things, but she's loving the series, and I'm excited to see that even, book 5 or 6 has really been worth reading. So I'm looking forward to reading that series. I'm typically not one to read a bunch all in a row, so I'll be spreading this out probably over the next year or two. But it's one I'm looking forward to reading more of the adventures of Carl and Princess Donut. I mean, how can you not like a book with a character named Princess Donut in it? Okay, she is a cat, and she is full of herself, and it's just such fun to read. It was a real surprising read, but a delight. And then, let me just throw in one more nonfiction book I read. Leave Me Alone, I'm Reading, by Maureen Corrigan. She is the host of I think it's on NPR. She talks about books and does book reviews for NPR and other places. I believe she has a doctorate. She teaches all those things. So in her novel or in her nonfiction work here, she talks about just the joy she has of reading. And it is a shorter book, but really long chapters. And each chapter oftentimes feels like this stream of consciousness where she's just talking about books. So each chapter does have kind of a theme that she writes about, but the chapters themselves don't have a lot of logical follow, I found. But that doesn't mean this isn't interesting. It just, for me, it made it a little harder to read. I like especially the stories she told about the time when she adopted a child and what her and her husband went through to get to that point, and how books and stories helped get her through that time in her life and helped her make sense of her life. And that's really what this is. What I liked is that she writes about just how much she reads, and really reading is her job, as she's a book reviewer and talks about books and teaches books. And what I liked is that didn't ruin the joy of reading for her. That, wherever she goes, she always has at least one book with her. And she's just constantly reading and describing, their apartment in early days as just being surrounded, overwhelmed by books and bookshelves and stacks of books. And they're just books everywhere. Made me kind of jealous. I've always thought, I would love a job where my job is to read books, whether I review them or not. I just thought that would be such a fun job. And I hear this all the time. People say, "Oh, you wouldn't want that because then reading wouldn't be fun anymore." But I really disagree. And I'm happy that I found somebody who agrees with me, that she read all these books and she keeps reading constantly, and reading is still a great pleasure for her, even though it's also her job. Yes, it presents challenges, but she really loves what she does. And she loves stories and she loves reading. So if you love to read, this is a book I'd recommend. It's a very thoughtful and intelligent discussion about reading. And it did help me realize too about, how I would review books. It's not so much, I'll dig into the critical aspect and dig into the grammar and the all the technical side of reading. What is the author really saying here? That's not really my ability. I haven't really had a lot of training or education in that. What I come from is the perspective of, this book was a joy, and let me just talk to you about all my favorite parts, that kind of thing. And that exuberance has its place, I think. She has the ability to kind of walk both worlds. And what I love about her is that she definitely doesn't do any gatekeeping. Like, real serious reading is only these, serious works of literature, because she talks about how she loves reading, yes, the classics, but also, like Spencer novels and the pulp stories from the 1920s and 30s and 40s, the private detective, like Dashiell Hammett and others like him, and how much joy she finds in reading those as well. So that's another thing I appreciated about her book, is that she doesn't shame you for liking what you like, whether it's considered, highbrow literature or not. So that was appreciated. All right. So that's, again, Leave Me Alone, I'm Reading by Maureen Corrigan, and I would recommend that. I found the book at Half Price Books, was able to pick it up. It was a great find. All right. So that's what I've been reading the last couple of weeks. Wanted to share those with you. Let me know below what you're reading. If you've read any of these books or want to read any of those books that I mentioned, we can keep our conversation going there. Until next time then, happy reading and take care.